Hello there, I am Lolly Spence and I am going to read you a poem by the Scottish poet Robert Burns. It's called Tam o' Shanter. Robert Burns is very well known and associated with Ayrshire over the Irish Sea in Scotland, and in fact at an old church or an old kirk in Scots in Ayrshire, both of his parents are buried. So in 1789, a historian called Captain Gross asked Robert Burns if he would write a poem about this old kirk, this old church. And Tam o' Shanter is the poem which Robert Burns wrote. A wonderful story of the devil plague, the bagpipes, of Tam o' Shanter cantering by on his horse and looking through the windows of the old church and seeing witches and warlocks. Very, very exciting, and I'm delighted to read this poem, Tam o' Shanter, for you now. Tam o' Shanter, a tale by Robert Burns. When chapman billies leave the street and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy and getting fou and unco happy, we think now on the lang Scot smiles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles that lay atween us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering her brews like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth found honest Tam o' Shanter, as he frae air ae nicht did canter. Auld air, wham ne'er a tune surpasses for honest men and bonny lasses. Oh, Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise as ta'en thy ain wife Kate's advice. She told thee weel thou wast a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that frae November till October, ae market day, thou wasna sober. That ilka melder with the miller, thou sat as lang as thou had siller. That every nag was ca'd a shoe on, the smith and thee gat roaring fou on. That at the Lord's house, e'en on Sunday, thou drank wi' Curtin Jean till Monday. She prophesied that late or soon thou would be fond deep drooned in Doon, or catched wi' warlocks in the murk by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it gars me greet to think who mony counsels sweet, who mony lengthened sage advices, the husband frae the wife despises. But to your tale. Ae market nicht, Tam had got planted, unco recht, fast by an ingle, blazing finely, wi' reemin swats that drank divinely, and at his elbow Suitor Johnny, his ancient, trusty, drouthy crony. Tam loved him like a very brother. They had been fou for weeks together. The nicht driv on wi' sangs and clatter, and aye the ale was growing better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious, wi' favours secret, sweet and precious. The suitor told his queerest stories, the landlord's lach was ready chorus. The storm wi' it micht rare and rustle, Tam didna mind the storm a whistle. Care, mad to see a man sae happy, e'en drooned himsel amang the nappy. As bees flee hame wi' lades o' treasure, the minutes winged their way wi' pleasure. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, or the ills o' life victorious. But pleasures are like poppies spread, you sees the flower, its bloom is shed. Or like the snowfalls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever. Or like the borealis race that flit ere you can point their place. Or like the rainbow's lovely form, aye vanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide. The hour approaches, Tam maun ride. That hour o' nicht's black arch, the keystane, that dreary hour he mounts his beast in, and sick and nicht he taxed the road in, as ne'er poor sinner was abroad in. The wind blew as 'twad blown its last, the rattling showers rose on the blast, the speedy gleams the darkness swallowed, loud, deep and lang the thunder bellowed. That nicht a child micht understand, the deil had business on his hand. Weel mounted on his grey mare, Meg, a better never lifted leg, Tam skelped on through drub and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, whiles holding fast his good blue bonnet, whiles crooning o'er some old Scots sonnet, whiles glowering round wi' prudent cares, lest bogles catch him unawares. Kirk Alloway was drawing nigh, where ghasts and howlets nichtly cry. By this time he was crossed the ford, where in the snow the chapman smoored, and past the birks and meikle stane, where drucken Charlie brak's neck bane, and through the ones and by the cairn, where hunters found the murdered bairn, and near the thorn aboon the well, where Mungo's mither hanged hersel. Before him doon pours all his floods, the Dublin storm roars through the woods. The lightnings flashed frae pole to pole, near and more near the thunders roll, when, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Alloway seemed in a blaze. Through ilka bore the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring bold John Barleycorn, what dangers thou canst mak us scorn. Wi' Tipney we fear nae evil, wi' Whiskabay we'll face the devil. The swats say reamed in Tammy's noddle, fair play, he cared na deals a boddle. But Maggie stood recht sair astonished, till, by the heel and hand admonished, she ventured forward on the licht, and wow, Tam saw an unco sicht. Warlocks and witches in a dance, nae cotillon brent you frae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strathspeys and reels put life and metal in their heels. A winnock bunker in the east, there sat old Nick in shape o' beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim and large. To gie them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and girt them skirl, till roof and rafter a did dirl. Coffins stood round like appin presses, that showed the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip sleight, each in its cowl hand held a light, by which heroic Tam was able to note upon the haly table a murderer's banes in gibbet airns, twa span lang wee unchristened bairns. A thief new cutted frae the rape, wi' his last gasp his gab did gape. 5 tomahawks wi' blood red rusted, 5 scimitars wi' murder crusted, a garter which a babe had strangled, a knife a father's throat had mangled, whom his ain son o' life bereft, the grey hairs yet stack to the heft, wi' mair o' horrible and awful, which e'en to name would be unlawful. As Tammy glowed, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they cleekit, till ilka carlin swat and reekit, and cussed her daddies tae the work, and linkit at it in her sark. New Tam, oh Tam, had they been queens, plump and strappin' in their teens, their sarks, instead of creashy flannin, been snow white 1700 linen, They're breeks o' mine, my only pair, that yens were plush o' good blue hair. I wad ha' gi'en them aff my herdies for ae blink o' the bonny birdies. But withered beldams, ould and droll, rig-woody hags would spain a foal, loupin' and flingin' on a crummock. I wonder didna turn thy stomach. But Tam kenned what was what fu brawly. There was ae winsome wench and Wally that nicht enlisted in the corps. Lang after kenned on Carrick shore, for mony a beast to deed she shot, and perished mony a bonny boat, and shew baith meikle corn and bear, and kept the countryside in fear. Her cutty sark o' Paisley harn, that while a lassie she had worn, in longitude though sorely scanty, it was her best, and she was vaunty. Ah, little kenned thy reverent granny, that sark she coft for her wee Nanny, with 12 pund Scots, 'twas a' her riches, whatever graced a dance o' witches. But here my muse her wing maun cower, sic flights are far beyond her power, to sing who Nanny lap and flang. A supple jade she was, and strang. And who Tam stud, like yin bewitched, and thocht is very een enriched. Een Satan glared, and fidged fu fain, and hoached and blew wi' micht and main, till first ae caper, syne another, Tam tint his reason a' thegither, and roars out, "Weel din, cutty sark!" And in an instant all was dark. And scarcely had he Maggie rallied, when out the hellish legion sallied, as bees biz out wi' angry fyke, when plundering herds assail their bike, as open pussy's mortal foes, when pop she starts before their nose, as eager runs the market crowd, when catch the thief resounds aloud. So Maggie runs, the witches follow, wi' moaning eldritch screech and hollow. Ah, Tam, thou'lt get thy ferrin, in hell they'll roast thee like a heron. In vain thy Kate awaits thy coming, Kate soon will be a woeful woman. Now, do thy speedy utmost, Meg, and win the keystane o' the brig. There at them thou thy tail may toss, a running stream they darena cross. But ere the keystone she could make, the feint a tail she had to shake, for Nanny, far before the rest, hard upon noble Maggie pressed, and flew at Tam with furious ettle. But little wist she Maggie's mettle, ae spring brocht off her master heel, but left behind her ain grey tail. The carlin cocht her by the rump, and left poor Maggie scarce a stump. Now, wha this tale o' truth shall read, ilk man and mither's son, tak heed. Whene'er to drink you are inclined, or cutty sarks run in your mind, think, ye may buy the joys o'er dear. Remember Tam o' Shanter's mare. The end. Hope you enjoyed that.